Hey guys, welcome to the Chris Stolle Show podcast. Hey, it's been a while since I've done one, but this one's a special one. First off, it is an audio only because, well, quite honestly, I was just too lazy to set up all the video today. Second off, I wanted to get into the topic of conversation as I'm watching Serenity down a fucking fifth of Fireball. She's ready for this. Guys, welcome to the Chris Stolle Show with special guests from Breaking the Fourth Wall podcast, Miss Serenity Stone. As she pauses her video again. There she is. Miss Serenity Stone, take two. Little glitches. That's why we didn't do it.
No, my 6G is being weird.
Your 6G? You sure that's not a 5 and you just need to clean your glasses? There she is. Miss Third Time's the Charm. Miss Serenity Stone.
Woo!
There she is. And then also joining us from What's Your Effin' Binge, and quite honestly, I still don't know the name of your other show.
Yeah, so the What's Your Effin' Binge network is branched off into a couple different publications, but the main one that we're running right now is Christopher S. Rutter is Telling You Like It Is.
There it is.
That's the news portion of the network, and you can just look it up under Chris Rutter, and it'll pop up on every platform there is out there. It's kind of funny how it's working right now, but we're getting a lot of views switching to the what we're talking about, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight with you, Chris, with world events and current events.
That's exactly right, and that's why I invited you on here. Like I said in the when I invited you on, it's pretty much your wheelhouse, what we want to talk about today. But let me preface it before we get into the meat and potatoes of this. This show is going to be triggering for some people. If you sit on a certain side of the aisle politically or points of view, this may piss you off. And if you're a person who likes to fact check everything under the sun, let me tell you right now, we will be throwing some factoids in here. Probably it's unavoidable with the topics of conversation, but in reality, this is going to be an opinion piece. Everything that we discuss and speculate is purely based on our own opinions, our own views. You can either agree with us or disagree with us. That's absolutely fine, but don't take us at face value that what we say is a word of God, if you will. It is not. We, just like the rest of you guys, are in a wait and see position on how this, current events are going to play out and certain things that we're going to be discussing right now. But please, don't be writing hate on us saying that we're, passing off false information or otherwise. We are not. We are speculating. We are giving our points of views and opinions. And quite honestly, from those points of views and opinions, as I'm sure they're going to be, we all hope we're wrong. But we're probably not with the way we're viewing things.
I would actually go out on a limb here and say if anybody's going to hate on us or want to fact check us or whatever, put it in the comments. So that way we have a chance to come back later and say this is where we were sourcing it from. If somebody wants to fact check us and we could throw facts back at them, let them put it in the comments, bro. Fuck it. And we'll come back at them with whatever they got. I know I will.
Oh, that's fair enough. And I'm not, I'm not the Young Turks or anything. I'm not going to fucking censor comments that I find to be negative. If you got something bad to say about us, put it in the comments. It'll be there. I don't care. All right, so what we want to talk about is the current state of affairs in the world right now. I mean, you can't avoid it. It's pretty much on every channel. I don't care if you listen to ABC or MSNBC or if you listen to Fox or whatever the case may be, or maybe the podcasts out there that political. It's pretty much all the same thing out there. We've got so much shit going on in the world that's just unreal. China making a move on Taiwan, which has been for a while, but it looks like they're actually getting set to do so. We got Russia pushing into Ukraine on quote-unquote whether or not it's an invasion or not, who knows. And then even more domestically, we have Canada declaring martial law and basically war on the Freedom Trucker protests, which has been, well, being from the United States and after the Summer of Love, I could say this. It has been the most peaceful and polite protest I've ever seen. And then I'm watching reporters in Ottawa getting shot with tear gas, point blank range, for simply being around the truckers. Like, what the fuck? Chris, I'll start with you. What the fuck is going on in clown world?
Yeah, so this is a really weird undertaking that they're doing right now. Trudeau is doubling down with his New World Order message. And whenever he originally started talking about enacting the Emergencies Act, which he did last Friday, I believe that was the 17th or 18th, he put out the Emergencies Act. He went in front of Parliament, and he actually made the quote that he's talked to several of the primes or the prime ministers. There's five basic country setups in Canada. You've got Alberta, Ontario, so on and so forth, Saskatchewan. You have five different territories up there, right?
Right.
And he's saying that the majority of all of them agree with this stance against the truckers, that they want the government to stop them, squash them, or whatever. Now, everybody, while they're talking about this, what everybody's actually forgetting is, why did the Freedom Truckers rally actually start? And they started because they did not want to have to be mandated. They wanted to be able to protect their civil liberties, and they wanted to be able to protect their body liberty as well, to not be what to do, how to do it, or when to do it. That's all the rally is about. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, Trudeau has really pushed everything in. And with the enactment of the Emergencies Act, he originally told everybody in a press conference, it was about 10 days ago, that he was not going to use the military or use the police in any type of force against the truckers. And then the day after that, Latoya Friedman, his deputy prime minister, came out and gave her own news conference and said that they will go after people's bank accounts. They will go after their social media. They will lock them down. They will block them out. There's been thousands and thousands of reports since Saturday morning on the 20th of February that these guys, their bank accounts are being froze.
Mm-hmm.
They can't access them. They can't transfer funds, and that doesn't even include what they did with the GoFundMe page. I think it was almost $11 million was donated, and the Canadian government said, "Nope, fuck that. We're going to give that to the charities we want,"
Which is
and they just
theft.
stole people's fucking money.
Which is theft. Let's call it plain and simple. That
It's
money.
totally fraud. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's totally fraud. And so you have all of this going on. And so what Trudeau is basically doing is he's keeping his promise. He's not using the military or the police, even though there are videos. You can go on Twitter right now, look up video now, Canadian mounted police trampling over protesters
Mm-hmm.
right now. That actually happened Sunday and Monday afternoon. There's videos up of that. And but in the meantime, they're freezing all of their bank accounts, so they're restricting how they can live, how they can pay just for water and gas. And they announced the law to go out onto their citizens there in Canada to if anybody brings them gas or brings them fucking sandwiches or a chest of ice with fucking beers or soft drinks in it, you're actually contributing. That's actually contraband, and you can be arrested for that.
Yeah, you're
And
you're
there's a
you're arrested under aiding and abetting terrorist activities. I think is what they
yes,
called it.
yeah, you're aiding and abetting, which is actually against.
But what
Go
happened?
ahead.
Like,
What's
to do is
what's that, Serenity? You're really breaking up bad. I think you're in a bad spot.
oh, and somebody is somebody because they're hung language for somebody. What our world is based, we should not be punished.
Well, I seen a
Sandwich that someone's hungry.
I had seen an interview on Fox News where they talked to a local bakery out there in Canada who had paid something like $250 to the truckers because, as she put it, she just didn't want to see somebody freezing to death in their truck. She wanted to be able to give them gas to be able to, like, sleep in a warm spot for the night while they were standing up for their civil liberties. She really didn't have anything to do with one way or the other what they were protesting. She was just looking out for the well-being of the people that were out there protesting. And her business was doxxed for it. Like, not only was her money stolen, as we know, and went to the charities that Canada decided it should go to, but they released her name and her businesses, where she received so much hate and vandalism to her businesses, like that she was crying, in the interview because people were hanging signs over her business signs saying that she supports terrorism and shit like that. Like, and she's just a bakery. She makes scones and shit. She don't fucking, it's like this is the
Yeah,
last person on the
Well,
planet,
they actually doxed a lot of the people who did the GoFundMe as well.
Yeah,
They doxed about 10,000. They published their names and put them on list and gave where they're located and identity information. And Trudeau is enabling this with the messaging and everything because their version of the national news is very much like our CNN, where they give really slanted information and they leave things out purposely and all this other stuff. It's a bad deal up there. There's a lot of freedom of information news and groups like that up there, but it's few and far between of the people that are actually consuming their news that way. So
right,
they keep getting fed all of this shit from Trudeau and from the cabinet people, and like I was speaking about Miss Friedman, the deputy prime minister there to Trudeau. Her grandfather was a famous Nazi,
right,
and her grandfather actually controlled all the propaganda that came out of Warsaw, Poland, and he actually gave everything firsthand to Goebbels, which is three people removed from the field.
right,
He was that high up in their structure, and she graduated from the Young Leaders Development Group under Klaus Schwab, and was funded by George Soros. She was a writer. She came in with um, the Washington Post, and she actually published in the Wall Street Journal a few times. She was a reporter for about 10 or 12 years before she moved into politics, and she moved to Canada to become a politician about the time that Trudeau was being pushed out of the Young Leaders Development Program himself, the first time that he took seat in Canada. So they basically paired these two people together.
right,
His deputy prime minister, whose grandfather was a Nazi and developed and graduated from the UN's Young Development Leaders, along with Trudeau. They both came out about the same time. She just had about 10 years of real world information as a reporter, definitely a reporter of the left, putting out all kinds of misinformation, all kinds of bullshit lies. All of her articles are still available online, and you can find them and you can look at how she lied and propagated weapons of mass destruction. She was part of that fucking regime
right,
whenever that shit got lied to the American public. She's part of the people who reported that we need to go to war with all of them. Her grandfather again was involved with in Warsaw, Poland, along with George Soros, who actually funded her the money to run her campaign to become elected in Canada. He's also funded Newsom. He also funded the Cuomo's. I think there's 300 jurisdictions in the United States that were directly funded by George Soros's foundation to put them in fucking office.
yeah,
And these are all people with with bond reform, letting violent felons out with no bond. That's why you have San Francisco. It's $900 to rob a CVS, and nobody gets fucking. No, you can't get arrested. Fuck on that. Those poor people. They're just trying to live. That's the reason you have all of these super progressive areas, and they all really rotate around most of the blue cities in the United States.
well,
And
you bring up
what
a
what
point
we're
that
seeing in Canada right now is nothing. Go ahead.
you bring up a great
I'll
point that
go on for hours.
no, that's fine. But you bring up I wanted to interrupt because you bring up a good point, and I got to pee. You bring up a good point, which could lead into
Okay.
something that I know Serenity wants to talk about in its own right. But it's a good segue into it. And again, I'm not going to apologize, and I don't care if I hurt anybody's feelings in what I'm about to say here. Okay, but do you think, do you guys think that a lot of the bullshit that's been going on in the United States. And of course, I know the answer is yes, but let me finish the full statement to what I'm thinking here. With the wokeism, the political correctness, the 15,000 genders and pronoun pronunciations, and this movement to make white straight males all neo Nazis and everything. Do you think all of this is really a progressive movement, or do you think it's, as Serenity would describe it, pay attention to this hand so you don't see what's going on with this hand, and with this hand being everything happening around the world, keeping us distracted from seeing Putin's push into Europe, China's push into the other Asian territories, for lack of a better term, Trudeau becoming a fucking dictator. Like, we're being distracted a lot longer than we should have been on this shit because of simple things like whether or not CRT should be taught in fucking schools. I'll let you guys discuss that to the audience while I go hit the head real quick, and then I'll come back and catch back up in.
Okay. So, Rudder, I
Yeah.
like, you know how you feel it deep in your bones that they're just feeding you what they want you to listen to, because they know we exist. They know the people that are watching them that aren't going to believe all their bullshit fucking exist. I feel like this Russia thing and everything that they're reporting on Canada and the truckers and his thing is really distracting from something deeper, something more fourth industrial complex. Like when that circle that we have, all this shit's on there. All this
Uh-huh.
shit, like the agriculture. You have to do something to affect the agriculture. I sent you something today from Russia about the agro-industrial complex. They straight up called it the agro-industrial complex, and that's agriculture industrial complex. One of the little things on that circle from Klaus Schwab is the oh my god, I just said the word like 10 times. Agriculture.
Right.
So I see
Well,
that circle of Klaus Schwab, and they're hitting every single one. This race shit, this gender shit, everything is on that. Every little thing that we have talked about the fourth industrial revolution, they're hitting it right now. The thing is going to be we're all involved in a fucking world order.
Well, yeah, the easiest way to manipulate that is what I told you, I think it was a couple months ago, that what we're going to be looking at is the third world countries of the globe, they're going to be start getting starved out. And then it's going to be left nations that these elections
Exactly.
can actually be controlled, and they can actually control agriculture and the military and the way that each one of the countries negotiates or has diplomacy with each other. Because if you're able to starve them out, okay, so that gets rid of 2 billion people out of the world. You have to understand, if you're talking real NWO, you're talking eugenicist. They
Yes,
want to
and
kill off the major population, right?
yes, I mean, we've talked about the Georgia Guidestones. We really need to do a show on the Georgia Guidestones, but yeah, the decrease in population is healthier for
Think about
everyone.
this. Think about this. During the 2 years of the pandemic, there has, on average, there's about 23 million people a year who die from starvation in third world countries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
over the past years, that goes without saying that that's about 95 million people have died. And that just goes off like clockwork. Nobody blinks an eye at it. Well, during the pandemic, it's been an extra 50 million people. So now we've gone
Yeah.
from 95 million. Now we're talking about 100 million people. How many people has COVID actually killed? 1 million people worldwide.
Right, something like that.
And we're completely glossing over this.
Okay,
And
so the decrease in population that they would need is what number? Like, are they trying? If it's
so according to the Georgia Guidestones, it's about 90%. We need to get the population down to around under 500 million total.
and there's how many people in the world? I just want to get the numbers out
7.9
there.
billion. So we need to get rid of 7.4 billion people for the Georgia Guidestones to actually pertain the meaning that they say.
All right,
Which
I
is,
But
if you get the population below this, you can control everything.
all right,
most
I walked back in late, so I'll be the dummy to ask the question. What is the Georgia Guidestones?
The
okay,
Georgia
so
Guidestones are. Go ahead, Serenity.
okay, so I'm just gonna do this the funnest way possible. So it is an American Stonehenge that is built like Stonehenge and has different coordinates to different planets, just
And
like
how old is it?
Stonehenge. Like what, 80, 90 years old?
Approximately 80 years old, but has been carbon dated to be 360 years old.
So
Yes.
before the country
So
was
this
founded.
is America's Stonehenge. It has these 10 commandments in like every language you could think of. And
All the
the
seven
main one,
major languages, right? Like Mandarin, Arabic, I think Latin and
Hindi,
Spanish.
yeah.
Is
There's
Yeah, it's something like
definitely an
that. And
Indian one on there.
Germanic.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's like 7 or 8 languages on there.
Okay.
there's each side has its own language, and like Chris, you could probably pull it up on your internet right now. But one of them is we have to reduce the population of people on Earth to, I think it's 90 million or 100 million or something.
It's 500 million is the final number that's going to best control. That's going to be the best thing for the planet as far as resources and the way that we're able to allocate wealth and make sure that everybody lives the same way. And the really weird thing about this is the way it ties in with George Soros and Klaus Schwab with the UN and the NWO. Whenever Klaus Schwab comes out on video and says, "You're going to own nothing and like it." Now,
No, you're
have you
gonna
seen
own nothing
videos
and be happy.
and be happy? And have you
Yes.
seen videos of George Klaus? I mean, he's like a James Bond fucking villain. He's like, this is the dude from Spectre,
No, I've
or you
heard
know,
I've heard
he's
the
fucking
statement
insane.
I've heard the statements numerous times about like the world going over to where nobody owns anything, we all rent it, and we're going to be happy that we rent it. And actually, Serenity and I off air had discussed it like that's meant to placate people, even like myself. I live with my in-laws and stuff like that, so technically I don't have a place of my own. So as a person who doesn't have a place of my own, this whole entire renting thing is supposed to benefit people like me. It's like, oh, okay, we'll give you a home, but it's not yours. You just rent it from
But
us.
that's
You know what
assuming
I
that
mean?
you're one of the 500 million people that they decide are allowed to live.
Right.
The thing is, and be one with nature. Be one with nature. Okay, but you know what?
Every
Okay,
time I take a
we'll
leak.
do we'll do
But the
one of the
NWO
Guidestones
doesn't
later.
preach. The NWO does not preach be one with nature.
No, just do what you're
No,
told.
it was built by a mysterious man. Nobody knows who actually built it. It's basically like 80 years ago, you didn't know who somebody was in 3 states over, and some guy just went to Georgia, bought this shit, said build this here, and then was gone.
It's kind of there's the what is it fuck, in Florida they have the thing where that guy built that huge maze and mansion and everything up on the ground out of coral, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
just some people are just weird and they do some things, but the thing about the Georgia Guidestones, they just popped up and they've been like this little, the biggest ball of yarn in Georgia stops, like one of those kind of tourism places.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, in the past 10 years, it's caught on as being something. And people try to document it and they carbon date it and all this other shit. And as far as local history goes, it's been around for about 75 or 80 years since the
There's a lot of Masonic
yeah, it's a
temple
Masonic
and hill things over
development.
there.
Yeah,
Well,
it's got eight. It's
Yeah,
an octagon. It's 8 sides.
I mean
Yeah,
to be
yeah, it's
fair, and
Masonic, but we don't know.
to be fair, and I love Fireball with Fago. To be fair to an outsider that doesn't know about this stuff, it does kind of sound like the whole Gozer worshiper shit from Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? To be fair, yeah. But I mean, but
But it's all going to be coming true. In
whether or
50
not this is a
years,
push to a one people government or new world order or not, notwithstanding, I think the biggest thing I'm scared of with current events right now and with the distractions and how weak our administration. No, I'm not picking on Biden because I'm a Trump supporter or anything else. It's just quite honestly, we have a shit administration that's doing nothing that the United States should be doing in these situations. Right now, as we stand, I hope that changes. But right now, as it stands, my biggest fears with the China threat, with the Russian threat, especially with the Russian threat right now, and even with our neighbors to the north, the nicest fucking people on the goddamn planet turning into a dictatorship. I'm really scared this is turning into very easily turn into, and I don't want to say her, but I think we're on the verge of World War III. I think we're about
see?
to see World War III.
Well, I think it'd be like 3 through 10 because like there's so much shit going on in the world that we don't know about. But going back to like what you were saying about this is all happening in the Ukraine and all that, I really think that we're not going to understand that we're under a one world government and until years after it's already done. We're not going to realize that that's the way it is. So I heard Biden speaking about these sanctions that he's going to be doing on Russia and that they were equal, that he would have to do the sanctions, but NATO and all of its allies would also adhere to those new sanctions.
You would have to had to
So
check
tell
on those
me,
sanctions too, because I think I heard one today, where one of the sanctions that Biden supposedly is putting on Russia or has put on Russia is one that has already existed against one of their banks. So it's really not a sanction, or at least it's not a new sanction. It's one that's already been there and unchanged. So it's like, oh, well, since it's already there, we can make it look like we put a sanction on, but we really didn't because it's already in play.
but wait, it's something on banks. Well, maybe we don't have that sanction, and the other nations of the NATO allies don't have that sanction. So that's in there because it counts as a sanction, but also the rest of NATO and America are going to adhere to the same sanctions that Putin agrees to. So that just changed how many people are in NATO?
Well, it doesn't matter to Putin because in the
128.
Okay, so all those people that are in NATO
So
are all
128
adhering.
countries to 131, depending on which country's government is being recognized or not. But it's about 125 or so.
Okay, let's say it's 125. That is 125 plus Russia, 126 countries that now have to adhere to the same sanctions because Biden said that NATO and all its allies would do the same sanctions. And I sent you the clip of this, Chris. You know this.
no.
So,
Yeah, so what they're actually proposing in the sanctions, I'm looking this up on DuckDuckGo, my favorite place to actually get information from. The White House has said it's considering imposing export controls on Russia, which would restrict Russia's ability to obtain the interrogated circuits if necessary. They're wanting to put an embargo on their technology so they can't get in or out circuits and processors. And then they're also doing on the bank, which they actually did in 2014, whenever Russia annexed Crimea, which made the Ukraine what it is actually right now. And then also the natural gas pipeline, which runs from Russia to China and from China to Russia through Kazakhstan. They've actually imposed these embargoes where they can't ship out anything from the Ukraine as far as natural gas. And they're also going to hit them with the SWIFT financial system that's used by all the banks around the world. So not only the original bank imposing they did, they are doing it with the SWIFT management, which is 12 out of 14 of the world banks. And then they're also making it impossible for them to trade on the dollar, which, in case nobody realizes right now, the only way that oil is allowed to be traded is by the dollar. That was an agreement that the United States and Saudi Arabia did it back in 1973, whenever Nixon took us off the gold standard. They agreed to only trade oil by U.S. dollars. So if they eliminate Russia being able to use U.S. dollars, they can't even buy oil.
But
they
they don't
can
need to
make
because
their
they've been
own.
processing their own, and most of us have been getting our oil, including the United States, from
Which means they
Russia.
can't sell it. Okay,
Okay,
that's
so
great,
that just
but
fucks us.
how much natural gas does Russia actually need? What they actually rely on is the sale of it. And if you can't trade in the US dollar, you can't sell the shit either.
All right, so what are we supposed to do for
That's
natural
where they get a
resources?
lot
He's
more
not.
profit from.
Biden's not going to turn around and fucking reopen the Keystone Pipeline, which
It's not
would be
us,
the
it's Russia.
answer to the problem for the United States in this situation. But instead, what's he going to do? Go beg Saudi Arabia to fucking start selling oil to us again instead of Russia? I mean, what? How does that embargo
Well,
help
we're
the
already
standing of the
doing.
United States people?
We're 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 already buying from Saudi Arabia. That's the reason our gas is $3.50 a gallon and approaching $4 in some other areas. And it's probably going to be up to almost $6 a gallon whenever we get to the next presidential election. They have actually said, Saki came out and said, you're not going to own cars anymore. You're not going to need to. We're going to make it so expensive that you can't afford to actually use it. You're going to find alternative means of transportation, which means
Yep.
everybody has to move to the blue cities because they have busing, railways, all of this other shit. They really want to take this away from people. And they've been talking about it for the past 15 years.
I know.
And now someone's in office crazy enough to actually fucking talk about it.
Which again goes back to forcing this on us alongside of everything else. Again, I don't want to sound like a doom conspiracy theorist or anything else, but I can't help but look at everything going on and saying there's no way that's a coincidence that it's all hitting at once. Tell me, please, somebody, put some rationality into
No,
me.
it's part of the plan.
You know,
It's part of the plan. In 2008, Klaus Schwab published his book called COVID-19: The Great Reset, and it was set in the year 2020. We're going through exactly what these guys have written about for decades, bro.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab is who I'm talking about when I'm saying the fourth industrial complex.
Yeah,
or the
he's
fourth
part. He's
industrial
also the head of
revolution.
the. He's also part of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. He speaks on their behalf a great deal. So does George Soros. And whenever you go to the WEF's website, they have an interactive grid. It's a square. And you can just push on to say COVID-19, and it's going to show this web of shit that actually fucking happens. And then it points to the media and to the press and to local prosecutors. Like it's interesting, like a media blackout. And it will stream to COVID-19, to martial law, to the reserves coming in. Did
Yeah.
you did any of the hospitals where you lived at 6 months ago? Did they bring in the National Guard to help with hospitals? They
yes,
did where I live.
yes.
It actually happened.
Like, did you see it?
I didn't see it
I saw.
firsthand. I saw it on the
I went and
news.
saw.
I saw it on the local news. I didn't go down to a
Yeah,
hospital
we
firsthand. And
drove in Evansville. I was like, we have to go by here and see. And there's army vehicles. There were government plated vehicles outside for these guys to be able
But
to get back and forth. And
okay,
my niece
so
works at that hospital also. She told me they were there.
one of my best friends, and I won't use his name, but I love him dearly. He works at a hospital, and I talked to him since about a month before COVID hit. He messaged me and he said, "There's some shit about ready to go down. Buy as much canned food and water as you can. Try to get a water filter and air mask, like N95." So we went out like January 4th, bought gas masks, purifiers, preparing for whatever was going to come. He's in Connecticut, where they supposedly did deploy people, where they supposedly did a bunch of shit. But he sent me pictures. He sent me video. He
Were they the 2-man teams or whatever of bullshit?
there was nobody there. Like, he sent me a link to a video on the news where he lives saying the National Guard is helping, blah 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 blah, and then they list his hospital. He's at his hospital, and the image that he has on the screen is the same as in the pictures, but the background is not the same. Like, those guards weren't really there. Those people weren't actually there.
smoke and mirrors. Same
Yeah,
way as
that
like
false
when
kind of information that goes on.
same
You're
way as when
doing it in
AOC went down to look
test-marketing
at the
ways.
border and she was looking at an empty parking
On
lot.
November the 13th. On November the 13th, they showed where radio went down. They did a national test on November the 14th, about a week before Thanksgiving, and they shut down and they took over the airwaves and they just did a test pattern for 2 minutes.
Well,
And it
I don't
happened here in
remember.
Southern Indiana because I was listening to the radio,
I don't remember
and it
exactly.
actually happened. Shannon, we're listening to it.
I don't remember exactly when it happened. But what about that
Yeah.
time when Facebook got shut down while they were doing some investigation or anything else? And
The 6 hours or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
same deal.
That was also 3 days before the whistleblower.
Yeah,
The
the
whistleblower
whistleblower
came out
situation. Yeah.
saying the fact. Yeah, it was like 3 days before that.
Well, we all know the fact
So it's
checkers
kind
are
of crazy how shit
bullshit.
like that works.
We know they're
Okay,
all left-leaning liberal fucking retards that will silence anything that descends against the narrative. We already knew they were bullshit.
I don't,
Sorry, go
I
ahead,
don't,
Serenity.
I don't know if they're actually just complete retards or if they're people for whatever reason, because they were educated and indoctrinated that they believe they're doing the right thing. Now, is that left or left, liberal leaning? Yes, it is. But I think that people can be indoctrinated in a certain way. That's the reason there's such a division here in the country right now that's been going on since whenever Hillary ran against Trump, that we have this huge division going on in the country
Oh, can we talk
because
about
they're
that?
able to show one set of news and one set of.
yeah, let's talk about that.
Can we talk about
Yeah,
that a
we can talk
minute?
about whatever. Okay.
When that and especially the
You want?
left-leaning media has not been talking about it, but that the new report going on right now, where they were investigating one of Hillary's lawyers or something, and it came out that Trump was right. The Clinton Foundation paid for hackers to fucking spy on him in
That's
his
the Durham.
the Durham report.
That's the
Hillary
Durham report.
Hillary
Yeah, it was
paid
put
for
out
him
on
to be
Friday.
spied
Yeah.
on, including in the fucking White House. That was a conspiracy theory for 4 years, and anybody who believed that was a fucking retard and everything else now comes out to be fucking true. Where's the outrage, and why
Yep.
isn't
Just like a
CNN
lot of
and
things do.
where's CNN and MSNBC in this? Where's the young Turks turning around saying, you know what, we fucked up, it was right? You know?
They cannot say that because of because they staked so much of their. I'm not saying they can't say that for a good reason. Okay, hear me out on this. They
I'm listening.
can't talk about it now and cannot report it this way because they staked so much of their reputation on that. During that time period leading up from 2015 on, whenever Trump was running against Hillary,
2016.
they all staked a whole lot of their entire reputation and their core beliefs on reporting it that way. That it was all a lie, it was all a misinformation. Hillary had the proof. Her server went down, blah blah blah, because Trump stole from her. But it was actually them trying to hide the information, and now we find out that it's actually true. This has happened so many times, but they cannot report on it because they base their reputation. It takes news groups like what I'm doing and what you're doing with your show and what Alex Jones is doing with InfoWars, all of these different shows that are showing the other side of the information. It takes every day another new person listening to that and being awoken to what's going on. Not being woke, but being awake and actually hearing what's going on with this and reading between the lines and seeing that there really is a puppet master going on with the majority of the world's governments right now and that they're lying to us. There's never a good reason to trust your fucking government.
No,
And the
absolutely.
more people get on board with it, it's not all conspiracy theory. That's the thing. There's so many things that we've been proven right on over the past 20 years. Whether it goes to aliens, or it goes to the Georgia Guidestones, or it goes to what Serenity was talking about in Connecticut, or Chris, what you're talking about, none of these news organizations will report on it. What we need is one person stolen every day from that side of shit. And the next thing you know, we'll have a good, fair majority that we don't have to debate it. It's right now, it's not 50-50. It's
Right.
probably more like 55% are very liberal and leaning towards this. That's why people that feel like they're not taking insanity pills. That's why that's why a lot of people feel like this can't really be going on. This can't be how so many people think.
Right.
But it probably is 55-45. It wasn't until 3 months ago that CNN lost their contract to be played on all the U.S. airport TVs. So maybe a year from now, there will be so much different information out there that maybe things will swing right. But there's so many people that have been indoctrinated and learned from the feet up that the way that they're thinking about this shit is the way it is. They're not using common sense. They're just being told what to do like sheep.
Well,
And they believe the party line whenever they hear it.
to be fair, and I've stated this on numerous shows throughout the 6 years I've been podcasting and everything else. Anytime I've ever talked about, especially when I've talked about political points of view, I've always said check your work. Always fact check yourself. Don't believe what I say. Don't believe what CNN says. Don't believe what Fox News says. Do your own fucking research and find the truth yourself. I've always stated that, and I can't stress that enough. Even today, with everything we're saying today, don't take us at face value with what we're saying, whether it's fact or opinion. We'll tell you if it's opinion, so that way you already know. Don't bother fact checking it. It's just opinion. But when we're saying something that is factual, we will give you sources to check. But I also encourage you to find other sources. Find your own truth from it. But don't ever believe what one side of the argument or what the other side of the argument says. I don't care if it's conservative point of view or liberal. Find the truth, because the truth is in between somewhere.
Let me just say really quick, read the articles, because a lot of people are tempted by this clickbait shit where they read like the first headline and they think they know what the story actually says. Or you watch CNN, you see the headlines, but you're not actually getting full in-depth, knowledgeable conversation out of it. So if you only clickbait and you don't like read through and get through what you clicked on, I don't think that you read it at all. So stay away from clickbait unless you're going to read the full article.
Yeah, sometimes clickbait is clickbait for a reason. It's just a false headline, and you find out it's about fucking the next Care Bear movie. But sometimes that article is the headline is misleading, but the truth is actually in the article itself. So yeah, I absolutely agree. If you're gonna read it, read the whole thing. Don't just read the headline.
Okay, let me give you an example here. There was one about a very prominent musician who is still alive dying. And I'm like, holy fuck, if he died, I'm going to cry. So I click on it, and I start reading, and it's about some experience that he had back in the day where they, like, licked deadly frogs or something in some jungle, and that he was legally dead for, like, 2.5 minutes or something. I read the headline thinking, one of my fucking worshiping heroes that I've actually met, fucking god of a man, was dead. And I clicked on it, and if I read just the headline, I would have posted on my freaking Facebook, oh my God, he's dead, cry. When in all actuality, it was a fucking story about a party time that he had back in some jungle. Okay, so like clickbait and reading the full article are completely necessary.
It's absolutely true, and
they
even
don't care how many times you read it. Like they see on how many clicked it. You clicked it, you're a number. They don't care if you read it or not.
Mm-hmm. No, you're not wrong, and that even goes for podcasts. Like if you're listening for sake of argument, if you're listening to the Chris Stolle show right now, if you see a headline or a video with a headline and it doesn't seem right for the Chris Stolle show, although I know none of you are really searching for it. If it's not on YouTube, if it's not on Rumble, if it's not produced from Anchor.fm to Spotify, iHeartRadio, stuff like that, it's not me. I never do Facebook Live. In fact, outside of sharing these videos, I don't even use social media. So make sure you check your source of where you get it. Whether it's my show, whether it's Chris's, it's fucking Louder with Crowder. Make sure you're getting the right ones and not something that's made up to just try to draw you away from what you're looking for. You always got to be careful of that. Misinformation is very much in social media.
Okay, so back to this whole conversation here. I want to talk about the Ukraine and Putin's declaration that those are independent states and it's part of Ukraine, which I guess that it's their kind of home. Ukraine is kind of like the Russian homeland.
It was during the Soviet Union.
Yes.
Why. So, well, I'm just saying that, I'm not going to deny that they have an attachment to this country, but they're saying that they took over these two independent parts of Ukraine, therefore now they're, like, owned by Russia? Like, Chris, Rudder, like, explain this to me.
Okay, so first, can you hear this?
No. Oh, there we go.
Billionaire George Soros, situation in the east of Europe is deeply concerning, and that without external financial assistance, Ukraine will deteriorate. Francine asked him how he rates the new government so far.
Their task is,
This is George Soros talking.
and they haven't done everything right. And the reforms have actually been rather slow, and they're just beginning to see the actual performance, and practically every day there is an advance. But very interestingly, what happens is Ukraine is up against not only Putin's Russia, but also what I call the old Ukraine. There is a new Ukraine that wants to be the opposite of the old Ukraine, but the old Ukraine is still there.
Mr. Soros, there are two scenarios.
Yeah.
The West becomes tougher, unites politically, or the West continues as it is.
Yeah.
What happens if the West continues as it is? How bad is it going to get?
Well, there are two possibilities. One is that Ukraine actually collapses. This is Putin's sort of optimum goal, to have a financial collapse, political infighting, and he can then step back and say, I didn't cause it, I'm a good boy. So lift the sanctions. That's what he hopes for.
I gotta.
I'm very pleased to say we're joined now by Francine Leclerc, border static.
Before we get serious on George Soros, I have to say it without having the video in front of me to see George Soros. He sounds like the villain from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey or Lethal Weapon 2. Diplomatic immunity.
Klaus Schwab, and that's the guy that.
Right.
I'll play Klaus Schwab maybe here in a little bit, but here's the thing about that video. All of that seemed like it was pertaining to today, right? Like,
yeah,
Putin is definitely trying to prop himself up to look like he's going to be the good boy and Ukraine's going to collapse on itself. That video is from 8 years ago.
Okay.
2016, right?
So this
no,
has been
that was during Obama's administration. I think that's when he was making his push into what is it, Croatia, whatever the fucking.
That's what I was saying earlier about all of this. You know, like the current headlines right now, where everybody's saying this wouldn't have happened under Trump. It fucking happened under Trump, and it also happened all the way back to Obama. The problem with all of this, whenever you're dealing with the NWO and the World Economic Forum, is you're dealing with the military-industrial complex.
Yep.
And the way that it's so embedded into all of these Westmatic countries. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of like socialistic medicine and all this stuff out there, like in Norway and Belgium, but they're still diplomatic countries. They still have votes.
Right.
Right? They still vote for their leaders. So whenever you're dealing with Western politics, everything from the 1700s France and beyond, everything that leads up to right now, then you're dealing with what they call Western diplomacy or Western politics. And the military-industrial complex, which Eisenhower and JFK told us about before he got fucking shot in the head, they told us to beware of the military-industrial complex, to be very wary of these secret groups. And, they were talking very much in point about the Bilderberg or the Davos group or Bohemian Grove. Like Mark Twain talked about the Bohemian Grove. It was too queer for him, quote unquote, because it was a bunch of dudes running around trying to act like, dudes and chicks. He said it was too queer for his taste. But it's been around since Mark Twain was a writer.
Right.
And it wasn't until about 20 years ago that we actually knew that it was for real. So there's so many of these secret things that have been talked about over the past 50 years. Let's just say 50 years, going back to the beginning of the CIA, which was the COO, and they were a part of Ops 8 and MI6, the beginning of all of that. Whenever you're dealing with these secret organizations that nobody knows what they're doing, is look at this right hand and don't pay attention to what the left hand's doing when they cut your neck. This type of stuff has been going on. This is Operation Lockstep. This is Operation Mockingbird. There's so many of these different operations that all of us know the names of, where the government has operated on covert principles, and they have done the exact opposite of what they've told us they're doing. Like MK Ultra, everybody knows MK Ultra now.
Right.
Yeah.
That happened 60 fucking years ago, y'all. That happened in the 60s. And we're talking about the birth and, allowing Charles Manson to be who he was. And this was a fucking government operation that did this. And the Gulf of Tonkin and all this other stuff. All of these things that have come out to be true because of the Freedom of Information Act. And everybody's like, well, they can't be lying to us now. Well, I mean...
it's not like I'm saying they're all lying. Like,
I am.
a lot of people don't think that. Some people believe ISIS exists. Some people don't. But I have to say, a friend of mine from 2014 to 2016 fought in Libya against ISIS. Like, he has no reason why. When he works at a dock now, if they caught a mermaid yet, and he told me no. I mean, you gotta fucking believe the guy, right? He's
it's just like
saying that not everything's fake.
Like those,
Maybe,
it's like
Commander. Exaggerated.
It's like Commander Faber and him talking about the Tic Tac UFO. Like, how are you going to really doubt that guy? The government has given him billions of dollars worth of aircraft to fly, over 4,000 hours of combat time. And he comes on Joe Rogan, is interviewed on the New York Times and Wall Street Journal, and they talk to him about his UFO.
Right.
Like, if everybody went to him like he's the credible guy, then how can you dismiss it? It's...
I mean,
but so
I really
many people don't even talk
believe
about
that aliens live amongst us. They don't hurt with us, and we're one of 5 friends could be an alien. I don't know about that, but I don't think that it's so far fetched. I think that when this all came to be, people were too unopen to the idea of that. So right now we're becoming open to the ideas of a space force and
why would not?
And
why would we not be open to aliens among us? I mean, has anybody seen E.T. or Starman or whatever? I mean, I'd be all down if they're those types of aliens. If we're talking like Independence Day or fucking, Ridley Scott's aliens, then maybe I don't want to deal with that. But, let's be real.
There's all different types. Like, be the fuck aware. If they're out there and they're among us, they can't be all that bad. But I think that they're among us a lot more in politics because they're like, Biden has to be a robot. I think Obama is too. Like, come on, these people, you can't fall downstairs as you're walking. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but these politicians, robots.
Have you ever seen me drunk?
50 million times, every time we sat in my parents' backyard.
Well,
so a lot of people actually think along the lines of what the new is and what they actually report on, and the things that they're actually communicating to us are because of extraterrestrial people being involved in them. And that's whenever you're talking about the reptilians and all that shit. I don't know if any of that is true. I don't know. I mean, that sounds fantastical, and if there's something crazy going on in the world and it wasn't one of us that thought of it, maybe that makes it easier to swallow. But I mean, there have been no less than 50 other Hitlers in the history of the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you go by Nostradamus, there's been 2 and a third one's on its way. As far as an antichrist is concerned.
No, I'm just talking about this.
With going down for being shit people. What if Hitler was taking real orders from aliens? Yeah.
no. If Hitler is just he's just a not part of the aliens. Maybe he was. Who knows?
He was
But if
working with
Hitler,
alien technology, so he must have had some sort of agreement.
he
I've
did
seen that
have
episode of
advanced
Star Trek
scientific
Enterprise.
technology, which a lot of people,
I,
yeah,
I'm
there's a lot
I've
of
seen the
people.
proof.
There's a lot of people who talk about the advanced technology they had. They had radar controlled bombs before we did, before we were even actually thinking about it. These motherfuckers were experimenting with it, so they seen shit. I don't know where they saw it from, but if Hitler is like 50 other horrible bad men throughout history, depending on what side of history you're on, like Genghis Khan, okay, he was so destructive, he changed 1/6 of the planet's carbon footprint. He
Wow.
was that badass of a motherfucker that he completely changed 1/6 of the carbon footprint. He demolished that many people.
Which
So
makes
going
him.
back to Genghis Khan, there's been 50 there's been 50 or so motherfuckers who are that kind of crazy. You know,
Yeah.
Hannibal was that kind of crazy. Genghis Khan, the Zulu Nation and all them, they were that kind of fucking crazy. The British thought they fucking marched through all sorts of territory on foot and killed British soldiers who had rifles. They killed them with spears and wooden shields. They were that kind of badass, okay?
Mhm.
So there's been 50 fuckers who have changed everything around them and made everybody go fucking, Texas Chainsaw Massacre crazy. Around in fucking circles with their chainsaw, like just making these motherfuckers go mad dog crazy. A whole bunch of these kinds of people. And it's been 50, 60, now going on almost 70 plus years that we've seen somebody really like Hitler. And what's the best way to do that?
I'm
Be
listening.
like Hitler.
The first thing is to take over the media and cause propaganda. That's what he did. He was
Oh yeah.
incredibly good at public speaking. And he was incredibly good at spreading his message. And he was incredibly good at having Gestapo make you put that shit up on your walls and listen to what the fuck he said. That's what he did first.
That's why Joe
Yep.
Biden is not a threat because Hitler
So,
Hitler was charismatic and Biden's not. However, the
no, it's not
squad
it's
else.
not Biden, it's what Biden will allow.
Yeah, it's the people that are
It's what
controlling
Biden
Biden.
Biden's just kind of like, whoa, my programming. It
Yeah, it's
doesn't
it's what
say.
Biden will actually allow. That's the problem with him being such a weak leader, is that he probably will allow something really fucked up and really crazy to happen before the next elections come around, especially if in the midterms that they actually lose a lot of House seats and Senate seats. If they lose a whole bunch in the midterm, fucking buyer beware on what Biden will allow to happen inside our borders. I promise you, that's a prediction from fucking hell. Mark this shit.
Yeah.
If we take over a bunch of seats at the midterm, if they just convert them and we just vote a bunch of motherfuckers out or flop from Democratic to conservative or what the fuck ever, any kind of vote out that happens where like 14 seats get changed between the House and the Senate, buyer beware of what the fuck Biden will happen inside our borders. It will be fucking nuts.
Well, he's already allowing so
Going
much
up to
shit.
his election.
He's already
Okay, so
allowing.
wait.
I mean, the whole entire influx from our southern border is enough to show that Biden's already trying to set up for, for
But it
lack of a
won't
better
be
term,
reported
democratic
on.
rule.
It has to be something.
Okay.
It has to be something that the media outlets have to show, because they were able to actually put it out that the border crossing in Texas, that we were like maiming and mutilating and beating these motherfuckers. Whenever in fact that didn't happen, and it hasn't happened the entire time.
Well, I know.
So it has to be something that even they have to show.
Okay, so I have to say this really quick. My grandmother died at 105. My parents, who are gonna hit 80 soon, um, sorry, mom, dad, like 70 something soon. Okay, they have all told me
Don't worry, mom and dad. Nobody
that
listens to this show anyway.
right? Okay, so if you vote Democratic, your vote counts. Republican, your vote counts. Vote for the other party, whether it be Presbyterian, Christian,
You're
whoever the fuck
stealing
the
from
third
another
party is.
party. You're stealing.
No,
Right?
no, that vote doesn't count because there's not enough people to vote for that third party candidate. So if you vote for
You're
Democrat or
talking independent.
Republican, it's
You're talking independent
yes.
and Green Party. Yeah. I keep
I'm
telling
just
people. I keep
saying,
telling
like,
people your
vote for
vote is
whoever
wasted
the
on
fuck
that.
it is.
And quite honestly, the truth is, anybody who votes for
Okay, but
independence or Green Party always goes to the Democrat vote because the Green Party and independents never
Let me ask you
tally up
this.
enough votes to fit into the
Let me,
actual
but what
debates.
if everyone voted for the third party?
Then
Let's
everybody will
all
vote
vote for that
Democrat.
one third
that's
party.
that's that's too much. That's too much pie in the sky. Nobody will actually do that because there's too many of the people who are libertarian or green that don't follow the Democratic Party line or the Republican Party line. How about this? This is much simpler.
Okay.
Everybody who has served more than 2 terms, vote them the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
How
but
about
wait,
that?
I don't think that's going to help much. I mean, it'll help, but at the
If
same
we do
time,
that
those
two elections
newbies,
in a row, if we
but
do
those,
that 2 elections in a row, then there will be nobody at the Pelosi's. There'll be no more Mitch McConnell's.
but
There'll be
there's
no
going to be the
more
young
Biden.
trained people. We're going to get these trained people. Like the people we have right now are trained to do one thing. And if we bring in the younger, more fucking determined to change our shit and NWO and Fourth Industrial Complex, why do we want to vote them in? I think that we need to go
It
for
won't be
another
them.
fucking
No,
candidate.
she's got a
It won't
point.
be them. It won't be the people you're worried about.
No,
It won't be
she
the people you're worried about.
no, she's got a point. Now, I'll use a perfect example. She's got a point because, you know, if 2 term limits came in, then we would have a hell of a lot more people in the squad. For example, Ilya and Omar and fucking AOC, who are extreme socialists
I'm
and
not saying
extreme,
2 term limits.
huh?
I'm not saying 2 term. I'm not saying 2 term limits. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying right now, if we want to reset the swamp,
We need to get rid of the
everybody who's
swamp.
had 2 or more.
The way the,
Oh, then how the fuck are you going to do it?
the
The
only
way
way
you guys are talking about it, or
No,
vote them out now?
look. I don't agree with the independents and the Green Party idea because the votes always go to the
Well,
Democrats.
I've got it.
They're an example of the illusion. Look at my right
Yeah,
hand while the left hand does what it does. They don't really exist. I'm sorry. I know I'm pissing people
Oh,
off, but it doesn't exist. It's Democrat, Republican, and if you don't vote Republican, your vote goes Democrat, regardless of what you voted under. And that's the God's honest truth. As far as fixing the swamp, the only way to do that is get rid of career politicians. Quit voting in who are actually politicians. The only way to do that
that's
is
what
to
I'm
put the
saying, bro.
people put
Everybody who's had 2 or more.
we got to change the rules back to the way it was, where somebody who is a natural born citizen of the United States, who is of a certain age, who has served in the military at some point or other, is eligible to be a congressman, a senator, or president, and that's it. And let the common man or woman actually take a hand at running the country, because that common man or woman has lived in this country under the common rule and the common folk. They know how it is. Instead of these elites who went to college to learn to be a politician, who want to pretend they lead us when they were hired by us, and dictate to us what they think we should be doing rather than what actually should be done for the betterment of the country and the people who live in it. That's the only way you fix the swamp. Put the power back in the hands of the people.
That's why I'm saying if they've done more than 2 terms, I'm not saying put in a 2 term limit. I'm saying anybody who's done more than 2 terms, starting with your city council on up to your prosecutor and mayor office, and then your local representation in the state with the House and Senate, and then your national people, your U.S. congressmen, U.S. senators that you send from your state, get them all the fuck out who's been there more than 2 terms.
I say get them
okay.
all out. I don't
I
care if they've
agree
been
with
there
you.
for 2 terms or not. I say we start from fucking
But
scratch.
those are the ones
Fire
that
everybody and start over.
Dwight D. Eisenhower, whenever he said after the military-industrial complex speech, he said any politician who leaves office richer than whenever they went in is a crook.
Mm-hmm. It's
He
true.
said that, and that was back in 1956. If it was true then, it's definitely true now. Nancy Pelosi has over $200 million
Mm-hmm.
in stock options.
And
Yep.
and
what's the
she
typical?
makes $200,000 a year.
Thank you. I was about to say, what does the typical Speaker of the House make?
200. She makes 450 for the engagement as Speaker in the House and 200 as a Congresswoman. So in the past 8 years, she's made $650,000, which is a lot of money, but it does not equal to $200 million unless
Exactly.
people have padded your bank account.
Hmm.
Okay, I've heard that they have to pay to get on these. Um, what are they called? Like groups? Like, let's say that you're fighting to relieve poverty in cities. There's like a group of congressmen that
A
join together.
cabinet, yeah.
Yeah, they have to actually pay and bribe to get on these. Like, it's not like you could just say, can I join? No, you have to fucking pay to play.
Well, I think
Yeah, if you want to be
politicians.
on the energy cabinet or something, you probably get bribed $10 millions a year. Those guys get paid
I for
huge
I for
sums of money.
I forget which comedian said it, but I agree with it 100%. I think politicians should be forced to wear the insignias and logos on their jackets of the people that bought them, just like NASCAR drivers, so we could see
Right?
what we paid for.
You'll never get the truth.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You'll never get the truth. They're able to hide it very well, but
Oh, we know they're
No,
anyway.
all
they
under the
do.
fucking
Yeah.
take. Every single one of them's under the fucking take in some way, shape, or
Okay.
form. Whether it's lobbyists
So
or we
if
know.
we reset everything, everybody who has more than 2 years, and then at the next full term elections in 4 and 6 years, we go ahead and we take a look at everybody on if they voted for what we actually think. Like
Yep.
how many of your local councilmen or your state congressman or your state senator or your national, your U.S. House of Representatives congressman or senator, if they did anything to make sure that Ray's plumbing supply on Main Street didn't get closed down for mask and mandates,
I'm the wrong
or if they
person.
made sure that Target stayed open and the new place.
Well, I
You know what I
can't.
mean?
I
Like look at their actual track record that way.
Yeah, I can't answer that because my mayor and my governor both still think that everybody wants mask mandates. Everybody wants to show their vaccination cards, and to this day, everybody still wants to pay $17 for a pack of cigarettes, $5 for gas because we need taxes for our roads and schools that they've never put a dime into either one. So yeah, I'm in the wrong city and
Yeah.
state for to be able to answer that, and we can't seem to
No,
get rid of these
you're in
assholes.
you're in the best state for that example.
Hmm.
If they've been there for more than 2 terms, get them the fuck out. That way, it
Right?
alleviates what Serenity's talking about. People who have no experience and they're all gung ho and they don't know how shit works. You got some people in there that know how shit works. They've been there, 2 terms. Okay, so what? By the time the second term comes around, they know how shit works. They could teach the new guy. So
Yep.
you eliminate that. And to an extent, the new guys that you're worried about, the under 30-year-olds or whatever, according to the last 3 elections, Obama's second term, Trump, and now Biden, the last 3 elections, that age group has voted on an average of less than 30%. Those are not going to be the activists. The activists are going to be our age. It's time for the 40s and 50-year-olds. Like we have to
Yep.
do something instead of just bitching about how kids are nowadays. We got to stand up and fuck,
Yep.
because it's been under our watch or at least our parents' watch that participation trophies were allowed to happen, and we're dealing with the end result of that.
That was our
This is
watch. My
generations.
I breathe.
I
Clap for
can't.
me. I can breathe.
I,
Clap
I, I
for
can't
me.
my mother. I really can't. That was our watch. That wasn't hers.
Well, depending on how old you are, I'm 51. Okay, so I'm a little bit older than you guys.
Yeah.
So okay, so me and I'm blaming my parents. Okay, because it depends on when you came around, when you saw that shit. It is what it is. But the past 2 generations, no matter how you cut it, that's who it is to blame on whenever you're dealing with the current social climate of things. We've allowed wokeism to happen because we want too many people to be happy. Like what they
Yep.
do on Sesame Street with your kids. Don't hurt anybody's feelings. Don't tell somebody their breast stinks. Tell them you need to go just, hey, maybe you need to brush your teeth. No, motherfucker, your breast stinks, man. Do something in the morning. You gotta shame somebody every once in a while to get them to do
You
shit.
bully. You're a bully.
No.
And The law next to is going to pass a bully law, and you're going to be incarcerated.
Probably either that or because of free speech. One of the two. It'll be one or the other.
Look, I will put it to you.
You know what? The free speech sounds a little more likely right now.
I'll put it to you this
like a law.
in my point of view. I don't condone bullying in any way, shape, or form. I don't. But do I think it should be eliminated? No. I think we need to teach the bullying how to stand up for themselves, because that's what you're supposed to do. How do you beat a bully? You don't beat them with threats of arrest or that. You stand up to a bully. You show them that you're not afraid of them. You take away their power.
That's what you do.
Okay, but like what's happening now is people aren't paying as much attention. Families aren't as connected as they've been in the past, and these kids that are being bullied are having mental health crises.
That's why.
I mean,
why.
Hang on. My neighbor had 3 boys, and one of his boys had a bad day at school, was bullied, talked to his mom, and his mom said something along the lines of, you know, we're going to have to teach you how to be a man, and you need to stand up for yourself. He went up to his room and hung himself. He didn't have the mental health and the confidence to know that, yeah, I could stand up to this guy. So mental health isn't just for this fucking 20 plus or 16 plus. Mental health is an issue for children as young as 2.
Well, mental health, I mean,
it's also good for parents.
It is good for parents, but like she was saying, it's because people aren't guiding their children nowadays. Parents aren't being parents. This is why right here, everybody's addicted to these stupid fucking things. Back when we were kids, it was the fucking television. Sit them in front of the TV. That's the babysitter. Now it's this shit taking the parents away from the kids. I've seen too many parents where the kid's crying in the stroller and they're too busy fucking chatting on whatever, you know, and it's like, pick up your fucking kid. Change his diaper. Be a mom. Be a dad. You know what I mean? You want to fix the kids? It starts with being a fucking parent.
Have you been following me? Are you that mad? Sorry.
Have you ever seen that video where they throw the cheese on the crying kid's head?
Yes, I have. And you know what? It kind of pisses me off.
Baby, stop crying.
No, just start with that. That's the funniest fucking shit ever. You and your kid will be laughing together hysterically forever if you do that to your kid. I promise.
Okay, my daughter,
not
the youngest,
smack them with the cheese.
No, you throw it on their head, or one of them throws it
yeah,
on
you
their
just
face,
toss
whatever.
it, like ring toss it on their head. They're like, what?
Yeah, but don't use don't use the brick of government cheese though.
No, not the Velveeta. Not the Velveeta block or whatever.
I want to know, what is the age range in which the cheese is supposed to work?
When they're like 6 months, 6 months to 12 months, I'm sure it's got to be like, they're not talking yet.
Go get Berkeley.
They just sit around and they get what they want.
Go get
yeah.
Go get Berkeley. Get Berkeley and a Kraft single, and let's find out if she's in the right age group.
I would do that if you wanted a screaming baby for the next hour, because it's almost her bedtime.
Wait till the next time she's screaming and crying and do it. Tell us how it went.
Put her in the bouncer. No, I'll do a video. I'll be like Berlin, my daughter, my cinematographer. She takes better pictures than anyone else. I'll just hand her my phone and be like, record this, babe. And I'll try it. We'll see. If she doesn't laugh, what's the bet here? Like,
start at her and she'll laugh. There's no choice. Just start fucking laughing at her and she'll laugh and she'll get a sense of humor out of it.
All right. Well, since we're winding down this show,
fuck it. Why not have a kid that'll laugh at crazy shit instead of crying over it? Fuck it. Make her laugh.
Since we're kind of winding down this show right now, let's go ahead and get back on track for a quick moment here. And final question I'll throw out to you guys. Everything in the annals of time, everything in history comes to an end. When this shit settles down, where do you think we're going to be when everything is said and done? Are we going to be the one world, or are we going to go back to some semblance of what we consider normality, or are we going to be looking at a post-apocalyptic world where we're fucking scavenging old world technologies to build a hut? Where are we at the end of this tunnel?
Go first, Chris.
Okay, no, and we take a piss break after this question here.
Sure.
Okay. So
I've
enjoy that, Chris.
I've taken two of
Um,
them, so fuck it. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna reiterate this topic of conversation that I said before we started recording. So, according to Russian news outlets that this is their news, 73% of the population agrees with them taking back those territories in Russia. They have taken down the Russian flag in Kiev, and it doesn't seem like the Russian population might be happy they got back that part of Ukraine, but they have to move their forces to a frontline position or move them back to a safe location because of harsh weather conditions. And they were like sleeping in train stations. And I mean, they're going to lose their strength. I mean, they're going to be freezing, they're going to be starving. He has to either bring them back or use them. What do you think he's going to do?
I'll reiterate what I said before we started the show, and I told you I wouldn't shy away from saying it on camera. Fuck Russia. I don't care. Let them all starve. Let them all die.
Okay, what I'm saying is he knows this is happening. He has to make a choice.
He's
Proceed to the front line and start fucking fighting,
Putin.
or go back to your trading facilities 100 or 1,000 kilometers away.
Putin believes his own gimmick, and he believes he's going to be the next Russian premier supreme. He's going to push him in. He's going to invade. He's going to push him in. Fuck him. I've got plenty of more troops. He's not going to stop because that'll be a sign of weakness for him. He's going to push. In my opinion, he's going to push.
Or he's going to stop so those sanctions all take effect. So it's not just, but 125 other countries have to go by the same sanctions and be open and honest in government policies, be transparent with what they're doing militarily.
It's a very easy way to create a one world. It's a very easy way to create a one world government also, because you're taking 125 out of the 180 sovereign countries there are on the face of the planet.
Yep.
And you become majority rule at that point in time if you get everybody to agree to this. They can't do it to China because the 1 billion people and the technology they have there, because they're able to build circuit boards cheaper because they have all of the prime minerals there.
Well,
what rare earth minerals that it takes.
Yep.
Well, while you were,
they have that as well as flavor.
What we were talking about while you were taking a leak was Serenity was reading some of the Russian articles from Russia about their business, and majority of the people of Russia support what Putin has done thus far with taking over the two independent states, quote unquote, and stuff like that. But now they're at a point with the way the weather is and the territories where Putin's either going to have to, in a couple days, start the invasion or back off because people are freezing and starving. And
what do you think is going to happen? That was my question. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, like I said, Putin can't afford to look weak. Like I said, what I said is Putin can't afford to look weak. He believes his own gimmick. He believes his own stink. He believes he's supposed to be the Russian supreme premier. So I think he's going to push. He's going to attack. Anything else would be considered weakness on his part. What do you say?
Brother?
I think that actually what he's doing right now, it was close to 100,000 troops next to the Ukrainian border. And he had it at the northern part of the border, which is the part of the mountains, which is where the 1/3 of the Ukrainian control comes from. And they're actually the ones who are ruling the countries, except for where they want to defect back to being Russia. And 3 years ago, they had 250,000 troops in the same area. And it wasn't reported this way on the news. This time was only 100,000. And you're talking almost literally 1/3 of the force just to go through their maneuvers. All they were doing was training. This is no different than what we do off the coast of California, off the coast of Alaska, whenever we're 100 miles from Russian sea space and airspace.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than that. They're just doing it along their border. It's like our military training out of McAllen, Texas, 22 miles away from the Mexican border. The only difference is the Russians aren't feeding missiles to the Mexicans to take over the parts of Texas that want to still be Mexican. That's the only difference between these two things.
Right?
It really is. That's the only difference. If the Russians were feeding the Mexicans or feeding the Canadians missiles, like NATO is to the Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
George Soros, there's a video of him. Pull it up real quick, but not to do that. There's a video of George Soros actually talking about, bragging about spending $5 billion to be able to send all of these missiles. There's all these Tomahawks. There's shit that's been sent out to Ukraine while Russia's been doing their maneuvers, and they're reporting the Russian thing like they're advancing. They're just fucking patrolling their territory like they have for the past 20 years since Russia got broken apart, whenever it wasn't the
I think
U.S.
that they're going to
government.
agree to the sanctions and agree to back off, bring their troops back, but it'll have a different effect because it won't be, this is what Russia has to do, this is what Russia and NATO have to do.
A small bit plays so that way we can either include Russia into NATO, which they haven't been part of so far.
They're not
Gotta
going
keep that in
to.
mind. They're not part. They're part of the United Nations, but if we can get them to be part of the NATO conglomerate, then we could go to war to China. There's no way of getting China to join NATO.
No.
Too many crimes against their own population and shit, and they're fucking purely communist and dynastic. They're a dynasty family, or as the British like to say, dynasty. I like to throw that in every once in a while. But they're a dynastic family, you know, where this is built on. This comes all the way back to like the Mandarin Empire, dude. These motherfuckers who are in power right now. And nobody like wants to talk about that shit either. And I think what's going to end up happening, if all of this goes according to Hoyle for everybody, I think what's going to really have to happen is there's going to end up being a Red Dawn moment in the United States.
Explain for
That's what I think is going to have to happen. There's going to have be that kind of a standoff. Central America, everything east of Wyoming, basically, not California. We'll abandon that motherfucker.
What about Colorado, man?
Southern California will still be there because of Camp Pendleton. There's a U.S. Air Force base. There's a fucking Army base from, you know, San Diego down in California. But Northern California, Washington, Oregon, that's going to be gone. Wyoming, it ain't going to be gone because all those motherfuckers carry guns. And you got militia hidden everywhere up in that motherfucker. They'll fucking go to war. Colorado's going to be safe. There's all kinds of fucking underground communities in Colorado. They're going to be ready to get down, son. They got U.S. Air Force. They got fucking, they have Navy there. Because they fly their planes out of there. That's where they all fucking train at. They fly out of all those areas.
There's the mountains that we have here in Colorado.
Yeah, all they got to do is throw all the stoners out as fodder first.
It's probably going to cut off around Philadelphia, Chris. To be honest with you, whenever this shit goes down, it's probably going to be like that, where everybody's squeezed in from Philadelphia inward, and everybody from Wyoming, everybody fucking creates a wall. Like, I think it's going to go down like Red Dawn. Like, motherfuckers better be ready to fight, is what I think.
Well, to get to Philadelphia, you still got to go. You got to go through Jersey, and Jersey still has bases and shit like that in it. I mean, Philly's kind of weak now thanks to closing the Philadelphia Naval Base. Thanks, Clinton.
Yeah, but they'll get knocked out. Where do you think they're going to send all their forces towards? They're going to jump in behind enemy lines where everybody has a gun in Pennsylvania, where they have hunting season all year round, except for on Sundays because you have to go to church. Really?
No, we still we bring our guns to church. We bring our guns to church.
Everywhere but Philadelphia and Pittsburgh is really like that in Pennsylvania. You know that.
Oh, Philadelphia's got it. I mean, you know, we may not have organized, but, you know, pretty much almost everybody that walks around in Philadelphia has a fucking gun. Probably not legal, but
there's close to currently now there's close to 1.7 million veterans who served in the Afghan war, walking the streets of the United States.
Yep.
1.7. Give them motherfuckers a gun and see what happens, son. You all want to parachute over, but that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen that way. It's the only way we're going to break these motherfuckers, because the New World Order's been in bed for 50 years, man. That's the fucked up thing that people don't want to talk about. The evidence has been there. Their white papers have been there. They've talked about it openly. The World Bank
Yeah.
Association, all of this shit,
Mm-hmm.
going all the way back to the 50s and 60s. Whenever Eisenhower first warned about it, whenever he was going out of office, he was like, you motherfuckers don't know what's coming for you." He gave everybody a warning.
Okay, but
Everybody.
that's what I really want to focus on is we've been leaning on this for so long, but nobody's going to realize what happened until it already happened. And it's happening, and people aren't fucking realizing it. 10, 20 years down the line, yeah, maybe people will wake up. But, like, Terminator's going to be coming back and fucking shooting down the big, Wi-Fi network or whatever. I mean, shit's going to go down.
Well, it's just going to be a matter of how many of us motherfuckers who have been talking mad cash shit this whole time are really ready to take up a weapon and fight. There's a whole bunch of us who are. There's a whole bunch of us who say they are who have never really been tested. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be a big thing. Have you guys heard
For my
the Eisenhower
family,
speech on the military?
for my family, and
No,
for
I
my
haven't.
loved ones, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And for people that listening that do not know, I am an ex-military veteran. I am the United States Navy. I have taken my oath of enlistment, and last I checked, that oath does not have an expiration date, which means doesn't matter that I don't wear the uniform anymore. I'm still bound to it.
So if you get called upon, you feel like you would go. Have you heard the Eisenhower speech on the military industrial complex?
No.
Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
And
Yes.
the only reason I want to play it right now is whenever you hear what he says, you're going to be like, because there's shit going on right now.
Okay, play it. I'm going to mute, and I'm listening.
All right. It's a few minutes long,
That's all right.
but it's worth the listen for anybody who has not heard it.
We're already an hour and a half in. That's fine. We're digging in.
Yeah, whatever.
We're having a
What
Joe
time is
Rogan
it?
moment.
All right, cool. If I can.
I already know I'm going to get a strike on YouTube for this
Here we go.
episode. Turn it up.
It's about ready to crank up.
All right.
Ah.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. First, I should like to express my gratitude to the radio and television networks for the opportunities they have given me over the years to bring reports and messages to our nation. My special thanks go to them for the opportunity of addressing you this evening. 3 days from now, after half a century in the service of our country, I shall lay down the responsibilities of office as, in traditional and solemn ceremony, the authority of the presidency is vested in my successor. This evening, I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell.
That was it?
No.
To share a few final thoughts with you, my countrymen. Like every other citizen, I wish the new president and all who will labor with him Godspeed. I pray that the coming years will be blessed with peace and prosperity for all. Our people expect their president and the Congress to find essential agreement on issues of great moment, the wise resolution of which will better shape the future of the nation. My own relations with the Congress, which began on a remote and tenuous basis when, long ago, a member of the Senate appointed me to West Point, have since ranged intimate during the war and immediate post-war period, and finally to the mutually interdependent during these past 8 years. In this final relationship, the Congress and the administration have, on most vital issues, cooperated well. To serve the nation good,
rather than mere partisanship, and so have assured that the business of the nation should go forward. So my official relationship with the Congress ends in a feeling, on my part, of gratitude that we have been able to do so much together. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. 3 of these involved our own country. Despite these holocausts, America is today the strongest, the most influential, and most productive nation in the world. Understandably proud of this preeminence, we yet realize that America's leadership and prestige depend not merely upon our unmatched material progress, riches, and military strength, but on how we use our power in the interest of world peace and human betterment. Throughout America's adventure in free government, our basic purposes have been to keep the peace, to foster progress in human achievement, and to enhance liberty, dignity, and integrity among peoples and among nations. To strive for less would be unworthy of a free and religious people. Any failure traceable to arrogance or our lack of comprehension or readiness to sacrifice would inflict upon us grievous hurt, both at home and abroad. Progress toward these noble goals is persistently threatened by the conflict now engulfing the world. It commands our whole attention, absorbs our very beings. We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method. Unhappily, the danger it poses promises to be of indefinite duration. To meet it successfully, there is call for not so much the emotional and transitory sacrifices of crisis, but rather those which enable us to carry forward steadily, surely, and without complaint, the burdens of a prolonged and complex struggle with liberty, the state. Only thus shall we remain, despite every provocation, on our charted course toward permanent peace and human betterment. Crises there will continue to be. In meeting them, whether foreign or domestic, great or small, there is a recurring temptation to feel that some spectacular and costly action could be the solution to all current difficulties. A huge increase in newer elements of our defenses, development of unrealistic programs to cure every ill in agriculture, a dramatic expansion in basic and applied research. These and many other possibilities, each possibly promising in itself, may be suggested as the only way to the road we wish to travel. But each proposal must be weighed in the light of a broader consideration: the need to maintain balance in and among national programs. Balance between the private and the public economy. Balance between the cost and hoped for advantages. Balance between the clearly necessary and the comfortably desirable. Balance between our essential requirements as a nation and the balance between actions of the moment and the national welfare of the future. Good judgment seeks balance in progress. Lack of it eventually finds imbalance and frustration. The record of many decades stands as proof that our people and their government have, in the main, understood these truths and have responded to them well in the face of threat and stress. But threats, new in kind or degree, constantly arise. Of these I mention 2 only. A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
So the three main points of that entire speech are that a voter be informed and knowledgeable, to watch out for the military industrial complex and their influence from outside sources that don't have anything to do with American liberty, like China and communistic Russia. And whenever we're sending arms to Iran and arming different forces and all of that other different stuff, he's warning against all of this. And this speech was done in 1960 before JFK took office.
And yet
I was going to say, just tell me, A, when was the last president you were able to hear speak like this? And B, how predictable of a message was that if you're looking at the things that we're looking at right now with NWO and World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and George Soros? Like having all of that go on, like how much did he actually predict? How much did he know leaving office 70 years ago?
I think he knew enough that once Kennedy figured it out, started figuring it out, he got shot. I think the only president in recent history that was close to bold enough, but not as bold as, would be either Reagan or Trump. And even they didn't touch it the way he did. So I'm not saying they're as ballsy as this, but I think they were the closest since.
I think W really gave a really lame ass, lame duck, whatever he was giving over the presidency to Obama. He had done his 2 terms, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He gave it over in a very way we had been bought and sold into the weapons of mass destruction in Syria and Libya and all that bullshit, and drug into another fucking war that ended up lasting until the way Biden horribly pulled us out, just because he wouldn't listen to anybody. He listened to his staffers, not the actual generals that he's supposed to fucking listen to.
The same generals.
Until, there's countless lives.
The same generals that were more worried about whether or not the army or the military was fucking woke enough. I listened to them either.
Yeah, and to this point right now, the shop mandate is still going on, and between all four of our armed forces, um, there's like 24,000 people who have tried to not get the shot for whatever reason or whatever. And the only branch that has given it on two occasions was the Air Force. Everybody else has denied it
Mm-hmm.
completely across the board. Whenever you're dealing with a command structure like that, how can it not be easy for the boys that are boots on the ground to lose faith in their command?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't have that shit going on and expect your military from the ground up to be solid. They're going to be solid because they're good old boys for the most part, but as far as listening to what they're told, sooner or later some shit's going to have to break. That's why I think there's going to be a red dawn moment. It might last 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years. No, but I think there's going to be a moment, bro. I really do.
Yeah, well, hopefully our powers that be get their heads out of their asses and stop this before it reaches that. But at this particular moment, and again, I don't want to sound like a doomsayer or whatever else. So I apologize in advance if that's how it's coming off. But as of right now, listening to the news, reading the reports, watching how this world is, and watching how the United States is responding to these things, I'm not optimistic to the outcome on the other side of this. I really am not.
I'm very optimistic by saying it's going to be a red dawn moment because I think there's enough of us who are going to stand up and fight that we're going to show a militia moment, a red blood moment, whatever the fuck you want to call it, patriotic moment or whatever, to where we're going to be able to hold off. And it's going to be like, I don't know, maybe our kids have to go through it and they learn from it or something, but I think there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are going to be willing to fucking take on that fight if it were to happen. That'd probably be the best thing for our country if we wanted. It was supposed to be, 50 years ago. Like if we want to talk about glory days, those are real glory days.
Oh yeah, I mean, for reunification of the country, it probably would be a good thing. I mean, I've been saying for years what this country needs is another civil war, but civil war is a lot different than another world war. You know what I mean? I don't want to see us go
I
through
think the
that.
best way to get the whole the best way to get us to go past any of the Civil War mentality is to have somebody land in our backyard and everybody fucking bands together. Like that's going to be the best way to save the American way. And it doesn't matter who you have to take in as a partner or a friend. Like if they're peace, bro.
Well, fact of the matter is, you jump in my yard, you forfeit your life. That's without a doubt, and that would be a positive thing that would come out of that scenario is that
Right.
we would band together and reunite and forget this stupid shit about separations and which
I
bathroom
think
to
Civil
use.
War would. Yeah.
You
I
know,
think. Yeah. I think you're dealing with just 10% of the extreme. Too many people with common sense ain't for that, man.
hmm
Where I work at, I see people every fucking day, and I don't hear nobody talking like that.
I
And
see
I
it.
deal with the public, so I deal with a wide section of people. But I don't hear nobody fucking
Yeah,
agreeing with that shit.
but
And I
I
play political shows. I play my show. I play fucking Alex Jones, all kinds of shit while I'm working, and people hear it, and I don't hear nobody say shit. I've even worn a "Let's Go Brandon" T-shirt to work,
I got my
and
MAGA
people
shirt
don't
back
say a
there.
fucking thing, man.
I
I
got
don't
my MAGA
deflect that.
shirt back
I
there. I
really
don't
don't.
care. I've worn it to work. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, MAGA till I die, man. Not because of Donald Trump, but because I believe in the saying, make America great again. Because we're not.
I hope Tulsi Gabbard. I hope Tulsi runs for office next term.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
really do.
Trump. I don't think Trump. I would say Tulsi or Ted Cruz. Because at least Ted's got some balls
If
to him.
imagine this, what's his name in Florida?
Oh, DeSantis?
DeSantis, him and Tulsi. Imagine.
Would never happen. Isn't Tulsi a Democrat?
Just imagine. No, she was registered as a Democrat, but she's now an independent because Hillary and fucking Google blackballed her. She has that civil suit going on against Hillary and Google right now.
Oh, brother.
So she's not part of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
So imagine that.
All right. Well, I was
Her
gonna
and
call her.
DeSantis.
I was gonna call
Well,
her a Democrat with common sense, but now I'll just say she's, a decent human being. No, I
yeah,
agree with a lot with what she says.
and she checks all the boxes. She checks all the boxes too. She's a woman of color. She served in combat. She has congressional experience. She has state experience. She fucking helped turn around the tourism profitability and shit there in Hawaii. She helped turn some of that stuff around. She's done a whole fucking lot. I think she should be like, go ahead. Let's go ahead and have a person of color, and have it be a woman and somebody with common sense. Who's a veteran and has some fucking ideals, an actual code that they live by.
I would agree with you. I don't really care about the person of color thing, but I this would be another fucking future future podcast that we could have a conversation about is with the recent people in power, meaning Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. They're shameful and shitty.
Her approval,
No, let me
her
finish.
approval rating, Kamala Harris, right now is 28%.
Well, especially Kamala Harris, but even
She
a
might be in power, but she is not.
well, that's
Yeah.
what I was going to say. Is and I'm including Barack Obama in this. I think both of them hurt the future of quote unquote people of color being put in office. And Kamala especially not only hurts people of color, but fucking women. I think it'll be a long time before we actually break that ceiling because the representations that we have are not the proper representations of what people of color could or women of color could do. Honest opinion.
You know what I think currently? You know what I think?
Hmm.
Here's my tinfoil hat moment, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna have one tinfoil hat moment on it. Everything else you can fact check. This right here is complete 100% opinion.
Okay.
If I'm playing 3D chess, okay,
I'm listening.
Kamala Harris, lawyer, correct?
In theory.
She was previously a prosecutor in the state of California. She is a licensed and board certified lawyer. She's passed the bar in multiple states. She's able to practice nationally. And right now we have a SCOTUS position available, Supreme Court of the United States position that is available. And Biden has come out and said he's going to make sure it's a black female.
Which he's not
Look at
supposed to
where
do
Kamala
either.
Harris's current. That's besides the point. Yes, that is totally illegal. Okay. Second of all, Kamala Harris's approval rating and her position, or where she's actually positioned in the news as far as any news cycle goes, she's absent completely, and she has an approval rating of 28%. Now, hear me out on this, okay? This is really far out there, but I'm telling you, this might be a play. Okay? Go ahead and drag the process out for 6 or 7 months. Nominate Kamala Harris. That's going to take 6 months of approval and hearings and all kinds of stuff. You're past the midterm, probably lost control of everything. Okay. If you nominate Kamala, then you can also nominate your vice president at that point in time.
Okay.
And we nominate Hillary Clinton.
All right, you think this is a play to get Hillary into power? Back into power?
Very much so. If there was a way to do it, if there is a trap door, this is the current trap door. When was the last time you talked about who he was nominating? Where have you heard it at? You haven't heard it fucking nowhere, bro.
No.
The guy that they even said retired actually had a press conference saying, well, this is news to me. I'll talk about it later. So he was forced to resign. Okay. You have Kamala Harris, who's completely absent from the national scene. The only thing that she does is rehearse talk shows.
Terribly, by the way.
Her approval rating is 28% at best. At best. Her approval rating is 28%, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and move her off to the Supreme Court. She's a certified lawyer. She has served as judge.
Which
She has
scares me.
all the credentials. And as a default, last grasp because it's the last year and a half of Biden's presidency, okay? I'm saying after the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about the last 18 months of his presidency. What better way to make sure that everybody who's willing to play ball plays ball is to have a Clinton in office? Specifically, that bitch.
Well, she was the one in charge of the presidency back in the 90s anyway. We know fucking Bill. Bill was too busy chasing Monica Lewinsky with a cigar. It has always been the President of the United States and her husband, Bill. He was an idiot. He was always an idiot.
So there's a way to look at that also. He was definitely an idiot, but the way he was allowed to stay in power is that she was the calming, soothing voice. Whenever there needed to be a meeting of the minds, a family dinner or whatever, you bring your person of power, this power broker, whatever, come talk to Bill. Bill's looking at the fucking, the
Hustler
chick
magazine.
Catering the event. Bill Clinton is Bill Clinton. He's always been a cockhound. It is what it is.
Right.
But in the meantime, Hillary's always been the voice of the reason. That's the reason his presidency was allowed to exist. She's bought in. She's been reported. They have seen her getting out of the limousines at the Davos meetings and Bohemian Grove. Like, she's all in, bro.
Right. That's why I wouldn't vote for her back in 2016. I already know what it. That's why I wouldn't vote for her in 2016. It wasn't the fact that I was a Trump supporter. It was I've already lived through a Clinton presidency. I know what that's like. I don't want it again. It's that simple. I've already been through it once.
They weren't as good as they are remembered. There's a Clinton speech where he gives basically the exact same speech as Trump about the border crossings. He's even harsher. He's like, these illegal aliens can't be fucking allowed to come across. I would pull it up if it was regular time, but whenever you're dealing with this double standard that's going on, I'm just thinking, like, what's the play? Because Biden can't possibly be propped up on enough speed right now to continue this pace.
No.
I mean, you could barely understand him as it is. But another year from now, imagine what kind of shape this motherfucker is. He's literally going to be a zombie.
Oh, yeah.
He's already had 3 brain surgeries, and he's propped up.
He's still...
literally. He's had his scalp open like 3 times.
Yeah, we've been wanting him to fucking crack down on Putin, and he's still thinking he's fighting popcorn. Or whatever the fuck his name is. And taking Trump behind the tool shed.
Yeah.
Who talks like that?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So,
all right, guys.
The way he fucking carries on and the way he symbols. Go ahead, man.
All right, guys. I think we've hit the point for the day. I definitely want to. Unfortunately, we lost Serenity. I don't know if she just got bored and walked away, or she fell asleep. But
I think her phone wasn't holding signal.
Yeah, I don't think it was holding signal. We were having a lot of audio issues with her phone. Probably the weather they're having out there. She did say it was like -9 degrees in Colorado right now. But guys, thank you very much for hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you're checking out all the other Chris Stolle Show podcasts. I definitely want to invite Chris Rudder back. He's a regular on Breaking the Fourth Wall, but this is the first time he's graced me on my own show, so I'm humbled and honored. Again, make sure you're checking out his show, the Christopher Rudder, on Spotify, part of the InfoWars family. So we have a celebrity on our show now. Tell everybody where they can find you.
I don't know about I just look up Christopher S. Rudder or Telling You Like It Is. That'll pull you up on the first page of Google. You could do an Apple podcast search and whatever. Just look up Christopher S. Rudder and it'll pull you to it. or you could go on InfoWars and you could find links to us there.
Right on. And of course, guys, you can find us wherever quality podcasts can be heard. We are on YouTube, just Stolle Show, and we are on Rumble. Look up under Breaking the Fourth Wall Podcast. I didn't bother making a separate Rumble for it because, fuck it, Rumble doesn't care where YouTube does. Let's be real. So, like, share, comment, subscribe. Again, I want to know what you guys think, whether it's a positive or negative. I want to start seeing some comments on this shit now, because we not only want to have a political debate with you guys on, especially if you disagree with us, but if you do agree with us, we'd like to know what you're agreeing with as well. And we will respond to it on air. And by we, I mean me, unless I get Chris back on here, which, he's too big for me now. But
whatever, dude.
But until then, guys, thanks for checking it out. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you on the next Chris Stolle Show podcast. Have a good one.